And right now, there is a 49-year-old tree surgeon. Sky News is reporting that he's called Ben Atkinson, and he's doing this thing that they call a free solo on Big Ben. Now, I would say that is an idiotic move that is not only putting his own safety at risk, but ours, actually, because how does he know about the state of that scaffolding? Dressed as Boris Johnson, which I'm sure all of the Champagne Socialists and the Extinction Rebellion will find very hilarious. One of them, of course, is my good friend, Dr Emily Grossman, from Scientists for Extinction Rebellion. Emily, our interview last week caused the Extinction Rebellion of London to launch a massive protest outside the News UK building.
Hello, good afternoon, Dan.
They weren't happy with me, were they?
I don't think it was single-handed, Dan, but,
Okay.
I'm not sure that was the entire reason. But, you could think so.
Well, I was just basing it on their tweet. But look, Emily, you must see a lunatic like this currently clambering up, who knows, without any wires or anything like that, up the scaffolding on Big Ben, or these idiots who got on the train at Canning Town Station, the Tube, yesterday, and you must feel ashamed of your Extinction Rebellion movement.
Actually, I don't at all. I think that the Canning Town incident was carried out by a group that is somewhat removed from most of the thinking in the Extinction Rebellion community. I have great respect for them for doing something that they believed was going to draw attention to the climate and ecological emergency, but I must clarify that actually I personally don't stand behind that move, and nor do a lot of people who are aligned with Extinction Rebellion. The incident today at Big Ben, Ben climbing the tower, I personally think it's not a show of lunacy. It's a show of someone who so passionately believes in the cause, which is to raise awareness of the climate and ecological emergency, so passionately knows the truth and wants to make sure everybody else knows it too. So, yes, it might seem a little crazy, but actually there are a lot of people out there whose lives are really being turned upside down by having found out the truth, by knowing the truth from climate scientists, and are doing really anything that they can in order to be able to live with themselves for knowing that truth and not doing everything they can.
He better hope he survives this, because to me, this guy's a madman, because he's putting his own life at risk right now. So who is this Ben? Is it right that this is a 49-year-old tree surgeon called Ben Atkinson? Do you know him?
I don't personally. I'm on the ground in Trafalgar Square right now. We've been doing the red-handed rebellion this morning, where we've been drawing attention to the fact that actually we are all red-handed in this. We've been caught red-handed. So
what have you been doing? Been painting red over everything or something again?
No, we've been painting our hands in red and doing a solemn procession through Whitehall and through Westminster to acknowledge that actually we are all culpable for this. We are all responsible. This is something that we all need to take a look at our individual behaviour, but actually we can't, because we're living in a system where our governance, our society is in a fossil fuel economy, and actually really the only thing we can do is acknowledge that we are all part of the problem, but that actually really, in order to change that, it has to come structurally, it has to come from above, and it's only the government who can really get us out of this.
I hope you're not damaging any property with that red paint.
We're not. It's not paint, it's chalk. It washes up in the rain, so it's probably all gone if there was any on the ground, which I don't think there was. It's now raining right here in Trafalgar Square. You can probably hear the sloshing of the rain right now. So I would imagine that even if there was any on the ground, which I don't think there was, it will be gone by now. Mine's certainly just been washed off my hands.
Emily, do you not realise the past 7 days has been a disaster for the Extinction Rebellion? I'll tell you why. Well, let me tell you why. I'll tell you why. Okay. Because the people of Great Britain have finally said enough is enough. And there were a couple of key moments. There was that moment at Canning Town where we said, you know what, let us get to work. Let us live our lives and let the government do what they're doing to make the UK the fastest developing economy in terms of reducing carbon emissions. That's the first thing. But the second thing is these absolute hypocritical champagne socialist celebrities who signed a letter this week holding up our hands. And do you know what they said, Dr Emily Grossman? They said, yeah, we are hypocrites. Yeah, we are mass carbon emitters. But you know what? We are going to keep on flying first class. We're going to keep on eating our beef carpaccio. And we're going to keep on living in states like Monaco where we don't even pay tax to support what the UK is doing for carbon emissions. But we want you to change. We want you idiots to only fly once every 6 years. We want all of you to become vegans. And we're not going to do anything about it because we're going to be living in our second home mansions in California, earning millions of pounds from the likes of British Airways or fossil fuel guzzling car companies in India. And we've had enough.
Are you done? I don't actually think at all that that's what they've said. But, you know, if you want to repeat that, if you want to report that, that's actually false reporting. They have signed, they have come forward to say, yes, as a society, we are all hypocrites. That's exactly what the Red-Handed Rebellion this morning was talking about. We are forced to be hypocrites because of the society we live in, hence why we can't actually do anything about it unless it's changed by the government. So,
why was Benedict Cumberbatch protesting with you lot and at the same time earning hundreds of thousands of pounds for supporting a car company in India where over 1 million people a year die because of air pollution?
So have you asked him whether he's still doing that?
He won't say a thing.
Okay, so how
he just signed that letter saying, yep, I'm a hypocrite. What about Mel B? Emily Grossman, Dr. Emily Grossman, what about Melanie B, the Spice Girl, who I know for a fact was for a very long period taking 2 first-class flights a week between Los Angeles and London. 2 first-class flights a week because she wants to live in London and Los Angeles. And she signed that letter.
Why is this relevant? Why is any of this relevant to the fact that we're all...
Because these are the faces of your rebellion.
Sorry?
These are the hypocritical champagne socialist faces of your rebellion.
But is that really the point? Even if that were true, which I don't think it is that really the point? The point of Extinction Rebellion is to be raising awareness of the fact that we're going to be finished with our carbon budget globally within 8 years, and at which point we're going to be committing ourselves to devastating warming that's going to have a catastrophic impact on this country. Whether or not you agree with the so-called champagne socialists that you want to call them, which I think is actually not true what you're saying, but okay, whether or not you agree with them, why are we even asking that question? Why are we even focusing on these
But why are you targeting the UK? Why aren't you targeting the governments of China and the US and India? Because I actually looked at flights this week, Dr. Emily Grossman, and you know it's Americans that take 24% of carbon emitting flights. The UK is something like 4%. Why are you blaming us? Target the foreign governments.
Can you let me answer? You asked me this the other day and you didn't let me answer either. If you let me answer, I'll explain exactly why we're doing
Go on.
that. You are absolutely right that the UK emits 1.5% of the global carbon. You're spot on. What that doesn't incorporate...
And it's going down.
Can you let me finish? Because it's irrelevant.
Is it going down?
It's an irrelevant statistic because what we emit as the UK is not about what we emit on home turf. It's what we outsource to other countries. As a country, we outsource the majority of our carbon emissions to other low-income countries like India, like China, like less developed countries. We are investing billions of pounds in fossil fuel subsidies that come out of other countries. And we use most of our goods, our food, our manufacturing, our clothing gets flown in from other countries. So this 1.5%, which may all be going down a bit simply because we've moved from coal to oil in this country, is utterly irrelevant to this argument. Because we are outsourcing our emissions, and the City of London are investing trillions of pounds in fossil fuel emissions from overseas. So your argument is a complete straw man argument. It's irrelevant to this topic.
I wish you'd celebrate the great stuff that we're doing.
The stuff we're doing is nothing to do with the government. It's to do with changing from coal to oil, to coal to gas. We are not doing anything great. The government have committed to bring down emissions, but an internal charter went in and found that out of the 24 goals that they put in place, only 7 of them were being even addressed. So actually the government are not doing that. They are lying to us. People who tell you emissions are going down are actually barking up completely the wrong tree because it's completely irrelevant to actually what we are doing. The damage we're doing as a country, it's got nothing to do with this 1.5%, and it's got nothing to do with the fact it's come down from moving from coal to oil and to gas. Actually, we are bankrolling things like HS2, which is the biggest deforestation project since World War I. We're bankrolling billions of pounds in fossil fuel subsidies to overseas companies. We're bankrolling opening up new power stations, new turbines at the Drax power station. everything that you're saying is completely irrelevant. Yes, it's true what you're saying, but it's got nothing to do with the global, with the carbon emissions that this country are responsible for, and it's got nothing to do with whether or not the government are taking action to address it, which they are categorically not doing.
Okay, so
if you say they are,
Dr.
it's hearsay. I'm telling you what's been reported on by the Committee for Climate Change. Your listeners can look it up. They can Google it. There's been reports on it. The Committee for Climate Change have gone in and they said the government is simply not doing what they've committed to do. And even if they did do what they've committed to do, to bring to carbon zero by 2050, that is simply not enough.
One word answer, because we've got to go to the break, but one word answer, Dr. Emily Grossman. Is the UK government doing more on climate change than the US government or the China government?
It's an impossible
Chinese
question
government.
to answer. It's an impossible question to answer.
You don't want to
US
answer it
government
because you know what the
are-
answer is. The answer is
No,
yes.
that's not true. Because what we're doing in this country of our own fossil fuel emissions is irrelevant, because that's not where our fossil fuel emissions are actually having the impact.